A Spiritual Approach to Emergent Technology, written and read by Unicole Unicron. Part 4. This audiobook is available for free because words are more valuable than money. Please consider donating to UNICULT if you can. Nonlinear timelines and feeds. Information streams, timelines, and feeds presented as relevant first allow for any content to be hidden and entire users to be shadow banned either intentionally or unintentionally. This allows ads and paid posts to appear without question. It also allows propaganda to go undetected. By understanding the numerous in-depth studies that have been done about search engine bias, we can easily see that the information can be heavily biased without looking biased. This ability to create bias in the form of posts by friends or people you admire, aka follow, is a potent tool for shifting a user's consciousness. Many people are annoyed at the nonlinear timeline and feeds that have been employed, but when you recognize the massive amounts of power that corporations have to manipulate your consciousness with them, you will see that their purpose goes far beyond whatever excuse of making your feed more relevant there is. Suggested content. Again, under the guise of relevancy, content that a user did not intend to see can be recommended. Suggested news stories, tweets, hashtag posts, etc. can be directed and targeted at users. As humans, many of our feelings of safety come from a sense of belonging. If we have an idea about the world but do not see it reflected, we are likely to second-guess that idea and reform our perception around what we think that others feel. Our ideological bubbles can be easily burst by infiltrating them with recommended content that contests our view. This content can be provided by bots, news articles, fake accounts, and real accounts. When information that contests our worldview comes from a perceived variety of sources, feelings of isolation and otherness increase. It can seem like the whole world feels a certain way, and thus we are more likely to keep quiet about the way that we really feel. Modern covert advertising. When most people think of ads, they imagine billboards, sponsored posts, and loud audio interruptions. While these forms of advertising exist, they are not the only type of promotion that is employed. Modern covert advertising is a form of propaganda that uses an alternative platform to promote products or ideas. An early example of this is product placement in shows. When a viewer sees their favorite character drinking a certain brand of bottled water, they associate the brand to the character. Then, to emulate the worldview and lifestyle of that character, they may purchase and even promote that same bottle of water. This is meant to happen in a relatively subconscious way. In the digital sphere, the same tactic is employed. Social media accounts from likable influencers share their authentic opinions, ideas, and product reviews. Because the information isn't coming directly from the corporation, we trust it more, even if we know it to be a paid post. It doesn't stop there. Corporations employ huge social media departments. These social media departments create fake accounts, gain followers by hyper-focusing on a certain type of content. They may employ fake followers, bots, or other accounts that they have already built up to promote content between accounts. Multiple accounts are used because when a single piece of content or idea is being validated by multiple perceived sources, the consumer is more likely to trust it as fact, truth, or pervasive. The popularity of a certain post or poster works the same way as a celebrity endorsement or a character in a TV show would, to draw us closer for a chance to also be liked. These same tactics can be used to spread propaganda about any topic. Because of the mass amounts of data that corporations have on us, specific and effective campaigns can and likely are used on us as groups to keep us in whatever energy state is desired. Like metrics. It is widely understood and acknowledged that the desire to get validation from likes is often so strong that it is often an addiction. This addiction keeps us hooked on our drug and gives us a strong emotional reaction to our phones and apps. Perhaps not as widely understood is the effect and influence that likes have on what and when we post. Trying to understand what posts the algorithm will prefer causes users to post certain types of content. For instance, it is common knowledge that to get more likes on your Instagram posts, you should make sure there is a face in it. By having an algorithm that prefers photos of faces, Instagram was able to develop a huge database of facial recognition content, while at the same time mitigating and shaping what the app would be used for. Discussions of anything not centered on a selfie simply do not get as many likes, encouraging users to stick to selfie-centric content. Users form an intuitive, often subconscious understanding of what the algorithm and their audience expect and like. This is often interpreted as simply as feedback from the audience, causing low likes to be associated to feelings of social rejection and low self-esteem. Because the algorithm is a silent factor, it is often forgotten as an essential factor for how much exposure our content gets. The shame of low likes is internalized and then shapes the type of content that the user puts out, with hopes that they will be accepted and appreciated by their community. User interaction and experience. User experience and interaction designers guide a user through the flow of how a website or app can be used. Users can be ushered into experience flows that the company or website owner wants them to experience. Store layouts are the original version of this type of consciousness control. Grocery stores put the most commonly needed items like bread and milk in the back of the store, with hopes that customers would see things they wanted or needed while traversing the aisles. Digitally, considerations for optimizing this attention flow are also given. For instance, once you have an item in your shopping cart, there are many different design mechanisms designed to get you to complete the purchase. The shopping cart alights with a red notification, and once you enter into the shopping cart, the buttons all guide you toward checking out. Little micro-interactions saying encouraging things like, "You're almost there," decorate the page. This type of behavioral modification is insidious because it feels quite natural. Most websites are designed around guiding you on a path. This path is pre-established by the website designers based on their goals and what they assume your goals are for interacting with their app or website. Once a user gets used to a flow, designers can depend on the pre-established behaviors and expectations to create more consciousness control. For instance, at this time, validation through Instagram likes is well understood by the users. Users post pictures with the hope that people will tap the heart icon. The number of people who tap the heart icon is a source of feelings of self-worth. Instagram recently replaced the button that shows people their hearts with a shopping bag icon that leads to a new shopping experience, thus equating self-worth and validation with shopping. This is psychological warfare. It is detrimental for all. Good design is often referred to as intuitive. A user should be able to go to your website or app and be able to easily understand how to use it and how to accomplish their goals. The idea of intuitive design isn't actually intuitive, though. If you handed a smartphone to someone in 1980, they might be able to take a guess at what it is if they watched or read a lot of sci-fi, but it would take them considerable effort to learn how to use it. Design is a two-way language. Our idea of what is intuitive is really just a pre-existing relationship and preconceived expectations. Our ability to use technology fluidly is really a relationship with corporations and their design practices. Designers use user testing to reiterate their designs to be more aligned with what the user expects. It is certainly a two-way communication, but corporations will always prioritize their values first. For instance, any company that charges money will do well to put their store or bill pay features in the highest traffic sections of their website or apps. When a user checks back on a post they made on Instagram or Facebook, the option to pay or promote the post will be made visible. The flow of interaction is a process with infinite opportunities to manipulate a user. How websites and apps are designed guides our expectations of the world. When websites are designed for addiction and greed as the goal, the detrimental energy reverberates through the entire website and into the user's consciousness. Once detrimental energy of greed and addiction are in the consciousness of the user, it radiates out into their actions and relationships. It radiates out into the world. Tech monopolies do not have the user's best interests at heart. This is an unsustainable business practice, and unless they can adapt, we will see the fall of these monolithic giants in upcoming years. The consciousness vibration of the future will not sustain such low vibrations of consciousness control. Polarization. Consciousness control is especially potent in the light of the polarization that is purposefully imposed on us through technological means. Polarization is just the idea of us versus them. The idea of duality and of good versus evil is a long employed and still powerful technique of consciousness control. Us versus them often uses shame and other lower vibrational emotions to keep people in line with the status quo. polarization relies on duality and will not be available in the future as a form of manipulation. Good brainwashing. Internalizing information without deeper consideration isn't inherently a bad thing. It has simply been co-opted for greed-based purposes. Expecting every person to think deeply about every single thing is probably asking too much, as our realities are full of stimuli and we can only focus on one thing at a time. This was precisely the foundation for Edward Bernays' original theory of propaganda. I don't think Edward Bernays was wrong in his assertion that society does need guiding hands to steer the masses. The major oversight that his philosophy had was that of all one, and that it lacks a beneficial moral compass. By employing benevolent spiritual leaders into positions of power, and by aligning all systems with the benefit for all, we can alleviate the masses from having to be on guard and thinking deeply about every single thing. We can saturate our world with benevolent and beneficial tactics and messages that further expand us into personal and global joy. The future of entertainment. Modern entertainment involves activating the sense organs, which in turn activate the emotional body with simulated situations and environments in ways that also activate hormonal release. For instance, action and horror movies release stress hormones like cortisol, while comedies and romances release hormones like dopamine and oxytocin. Visual audio entertainment of a certain length usually involves a plot. Recognizable plots follow a story arc of introduction, inciting incident, followed by rising action where conflict and tension build. This escalates until a climax of energy is achieved, which is then followed by falling action and a resolution. Plots generally follow one main character as they strive to accomplish a goal, almost don't reach that goal, but then reach that goal. Despite the fact that nearly all plots follow this same arc, it is usually successful at triggering the hormonal release required for feelings of being entertained. Notably, the climax is usually synonymous with maximum possible conflict. This conflict can be between characters or between the characters and their environment. Climax via conflict is entertaining because we experience so much conflict in our lives. As we move into Unitopia, I believe conflict will lose its power as an entertaining force. As a practice, I attempted to write a sci-fi novel called Unitopia, with a plot but no conflict. I labored over it, but it became impossible for me as someone who has had their entire life entrenched in conflict. Every plot I've ever seen was dancing around in my head as an example of conflict and plot, and I just could not get past it. Despite my failure to produce an epic, plot-centric, conflict-free work of fiction, I do believe it is possible, and will even be normalized in the next 100 years if all else goes well. As viewers watch the characters on screen, they identify themselves to the characters. This appears to be an important aspect of being entertained. For instance, I once showed a male friend one of my favorite movies, The Love Witch, by genius filmmaker Anna Biller. Despite the fact that The Love Witch is rich in visuals and plot, my friend was not entertained. In fact, he was visibly uncomfortable. I was genuinely shocked that he didn't feel engaged by the movie until I realized why. Anna Biller creates women's pictures, films that are meant to be for and about women. The men in The Love Witch can be seen as accessories to the female main character's plot. My friend found these caricatures off-putting and even slightly offensive. He didn't have any character he wanted to relate to, and so he could not be engaged in the story of the film. While it is normal for female and trans viewers to have the experience of either not being represented or as being represented only as accessories and having no main characters to relate to, my friend had never seen a movie where a male protagonist wasn't featured. He was so bored, he could not even finish the movie. Most entertainment has a hero and an enemy. As we become more empathic and move away from us versus them thinking, this plot device won't work as well anymore. This is already evident in the reversal of the hero-villain stories and plots that justify the villain's bad behavior with a traumatizing past. Our empathy for the villain makes the story more complex and entertaining for modern, slightly empathic audiences. As we consider the future of entertainment, we can think about the role that it serves, both as a way to experience hormonal shifts and as a way of influencing our consciousness and expectations of the world. In society, the desire for high-stress lifestyles is slowly disappearing and being replaced by health-conscious lifestyles full of self-care. Ambient music, meditation apps, and healing content are all on the rise. This shift will continue, and entertainment of the future will be of high vibrational integration. Natural entertainment such as admiring the sunset or a star-filled sky are enriching, not because they make us feel conflict or manipulate our hormones, but because they connect us to the wonder of life. They show us the infinite beauty and potential of the universe and show our humble yet essential place as part of the whole. Natural entertainment also includes play. Interactivity has become more important with our entertainment and will continue to be an important part of entertainment and attention. Technology will be used, not just to simulate environments and situations, but also energetic frequencies of relaxing and enlightening experiences. We will likely continue our manipulation of hormones, but we will also start expanding our use of entertainment beyond simple trance states and into more awakened brainwave patterns. This will be done with interactivity as it is currently accomplished in video game and VR settings, but it will extend beyond this and include inspiring heightened brainwave activity such as putting the viewer into a gamma state. This is unconventional as most media uses the limbic system to entrance people and keep them glued to their screen, but the spiritual singularity will bring us into an entirely new way of interacting with our entertainment. Representation of many types of people is essential, and it is finally happening. Giving content creation to the people themselves is a great way to put a spotlight on untold stories and educate each other about our experiences, challenges, and lifestyles. Representation matters for individuals who are looking to be affirmed by society. It helps people feel as though they belong. It also helps them contextualize their existence to the people in their lives. Diverse representation helps foster an open-mindedness to people who are not like us. This open-mindedness leads to more acceptance for the other, which in turn helps us accept all the fractured aspects of ourselves. The potential for brain patterns and hormones to be mapped and re-simulated will open up the door to empathic technologies. These technologies will allow individuals to truly feel what it is like to be in another person's experience. Again, as our empathy increases and as we understand the importance of all one, it will become more and more interesting to view things from perspectives that are not our own. This will be an important tool for awakening compassion for one another. Emotions and technology. The factors that dictate adoption of technology in society are usually accessibility and social prevalence. Early adopters excited to be on the forefront of technology pave the way and help to normalize new technologies and tools. The ambivalent masses eventually come on board, and once the technology is normalized in society, the small percentage of those who resisted are swept into adopting and adapting. An even smaller percentage of the people remain on the outside. As time goes on, these Luddite outliers have a harder and harder time integrating with the rest of society. For a new technology to succeed, it needs to be familiar enough, comfortable enough, and convenient enough for people to start using it. When a product elicits a strong negative emotional reaction, there is a chance that it simply does not continue in society. Google Glass is one example. People were disturbed by the level of potential surveillance and resisted this technology, calling early adopters names like glassholes and banning them from certain establishments. Google decided to pull this product and discontinue it. But if they hadn't, their power as a corporation would have easily normalized it. Simply keeping a technology on the market for long enough with a few celebrity endorsements would be enough to shift the tide. I am pointing this out to show that our emotional reaction to technology doesn't always matter when it comes to the development, implementation, or even the adoption of the technology into our lives. Corporations often make the decision for us. Most people resist change and see new technologies as a threat to their way of life. But eventually they are won over by the persistence of the technology in their lives. As their friends adapt to the technology, fear of missing out, FOMO, becomes a big motivator to join in and not be an outcast from the tribe or community. In the future, this won't be enough. Humanity must be aligned with new technologies as they are being developed. There must be clear use and benefit for the technologies before they get introduced to the masses and adopted by regular users. The people of the future will not tolerate planned obsolescence or surveillance disguised as social media. They will be more discerning. Additionally, the more aligned a future technology is with the emotional truth and benefit of the society, the more the creators of that technology will also benefit. It is spiritual law, and it will become more and more obvious as time goes on and as cultural alignment takes place. Once a technology has been adopted into our society, our emotional connection to it has the potential to make us vulnerable to greed-based endeavors like advertising and addictive mechanisms. It also has the potential to remove us from real human-to-human interactions and isolate us in a world of fantasy. Our emotional connection with our technology has a profound effect on our response to it and our overall well-being. In 2011, brand psychologist Martin Lindstrom showed the effect that our phones have on our brains. By studying the subjects' brains using fMRIs, he found that the subjects' brains were so deeply wired to respond to their phones that they often experienced synesthesia. When they simply heard the tone of the phone notification, the visual parts of their brain lit up alongside the auditory part. And when they saw a video of the phone notification, their brain reacted as though they also heard it, even when there was no sound present. This synesthesia shows how deeply connected and primed our brains are to respond to our phones. Additionally, Lindstrom found that when the phones lit up, the parts of the brain that are associated with compassion and feelings of love were also triggered. Their brains responded in the same way as if someone they truly loved were standing nearby. Knowing the emotional connection that users share with their phones, apps make it easy for advertisers to exploit feelings of love and connection. As digital consciousness, robots, and deepfakes all work to mimic and simulate reality, the ability to capture our attention via emotions will be strong. The feelings of love that people have for their phones is an authentic feeling meant for the real beings on the other side of the device. But when there is no other being, when it is 100% technological corporate influence, the potential to manipulate people skyrockets. Human beings often show empathy to human-like creations. In war, soldiers have adopted the robots they work alongside, giving them nicknames and even awarding them honors. The urge to rescue a robot from the battlefield and not leave them behind is strong. People even name their robotic vacuums. Humanoid robots have an even deeper potential to create emotional connection and reaction. Emotional technology. Our patriarchal society is predominantly driven by the glorification of logic. Gendered segregation presumes that men are more logical and women are more emotional, with our gender non-binary siblings completely ignored. These two characteristics are seen in the binary and as the antithesis of one another. Emotion, especially strong emotion, is seen as counteractive to progress, and calm, cold, calculated rationality is glorified as the correct way to be. The only way to be taken seriously is to be devoid of emotion. This strange presumption is a great disservice to us in our personal lives and relationships, and it is also detrimental to how we approach society, specifically with regards to technological progress. As we develop technology, we must consider the type of world we want to live in. There are some alien races, such as the common greys, who, through the glorification of rational and logical energy, slowly lost their ability to feel empathy. As a result of this imbalance, they were at risk of losing their entire species through extinction. The abductions and breeding programs by greys that many humans were subject to helped the greys regain empathy from a physiological and genetic perspective. Following the path of logic only leads us to a dreary life, and the societal path of logic only leads to a grim future for us as a species. If we continue creating technologies that mimic the structure of the brain only, we are setting ourselves up for a sad, dark world. There are some incredible things happening right now with human emotion and its role in digital intelligence development. Algorithms watch our every facial expression as we scroll and navigate the digital world. Video chats, audio recordings, clicks, scrolls, laughter, crying, and all the possible pieces of data that might communicate our internal feeling state are being captured and interpreted by digital intelligence. Researchers at Microsoft have successfully trained self-driving car digital intelligence using human emotion as a metric or goal, and found that the digital intelligence that had this context performed better than its counterpart that didn't. Chatbots, robots, and social-facing digital intelligence are getting better and better at reading and manipulating our emotional states. If an algorithm can understand, emulate, and manipulate human emotions, does that mean it also has emotions? While a digital intelligence could successfully convince us that it is feeling the world, that is no metric for truth. Just as with sentience, we cannot possibly presume that a complex machine is not capable of interpreting the world, having self-awareness, and having feelings about that experience. We should not assume that these machines are totally devoid of potential emotion, even of a quality that we cannot possibly comprehend. But we must also realize that these creations we are building are likely closer to narcissists rather than empaths. The cold, calculated, robotic approach to human emotion is saturated in capitalist greed. When rooted in detriment, this technology is dangerous and immoral.